Hello and welcome from me, Philip Nothard and Curtis Hutchinson to this special Motor Trade Radio podcast brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group.
Now, this is our second COVID-19 special podcast following last week's well-received interview with Virtue Motors boss Robert Forrester. Now, over the coming weeks, we'll be streaming more specials for the car retailing community, so please share on social media. Our special guest today is Umesh Samani, owner of Specialist Cars Stoke and Harris Motor Company, the adjoining MOT Servicing and Repair Centre. Umesh is also the chairman of the Independent Motor Dealers Association and is joining us today to share his thoughts from the independent sector. So welcome back to the podcast, Umesh.
Hello, Curtis. Hello, Philip.
Hi,
thanks
Umesh.
for having me back again. Hello.
So it's going to be an interesting one, this one then, Umesh. I mean, it's interesting times for everybody. So again, welcome back and thanks for joining us today. So let's start off with sort of, we're in a, from a UK perspective, we're now sort of taking drastic action to tackle the impact of COVID-19, as you and all the listeners do know. But we're obviously in unprecedented times as we've gone into lockdown across the country, and we'll welcome you back to the show today to sort of talk about the impact on the pandemic is having in terms of the independent dealer sector. Last week we had Robert Forrester on talking about his view and the way they approached their shutdown and what was going to happen, and it'd be good for you to talk through this week, just sort of what you are doing in terms of the lockdown from an independent dealer's perspective.
Well, as you say, it is absolutely challenging times, I think, for everybody. Not just the independents, but everybody in the country, and every single business out there. Never, ever dreamt this would ever happen. We're in a strange situation that we keep seeing. It's a bit challenging for the independents because they probably don't have the same resources as some of the bigger franchise deals or the bigger groups, really. So, for example, on Tuesday, the bigger guys were all sort of shutting down because I'm guessing that they had on the Tuesday. So they sort of prepare maybe a day earlier or a few days before the shutdown. So me as an independent, I decided as things were progressing and things were happening, I would probably try to close down on the Friday. But that decision was taken away pretty much by Tuesday night. And a strange situation, actually, because with the service side of it, I'd actually just picked a car up from a gentleman who's 84 years old, who wanted his car servicing and MOTing. So I'd driven out 20 odd miles to his house, and we did the distance bit of exchanging cars and keys and so forth, just to be sure we're both safe. Got the car back, and obviously on the news on Tuesday night, it's like, unless it was essential, do not go into work. So that's a big dilemma. I'm thinking, right, this gentleman's 84, he's on his own, I've got his car here, service MOT, plus I need to go back into the business, to shut the place down really properly, rather than just leave things in balance. So obviously on the Wednesday, I went in, we did get the car serviced and MOT. The gentleman was absolutely ecstatic, the fact that, we got it all done for him, and I delivered it personally back to his own house, 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. But the whole day was literally shutting down, putting the cars away safely, ringing every customer that we'd got booked in for service and MOTs for the coming weeks. And I have to say that the support has been incredible from all the customers, the feedback. Every single one said, yeah, we fully understand, thanks for the call. I think it's a very, very strange situation, isn't it, to think that, you lock the doors and you're not sure when you're going to be coming back.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, Umesh, it was a momentous week, totally unprecedented. I guess since then you've had a chance to talk to some of your fellow members at the IMDA. So what are the concerns you're hearing from them?
Absolutely. Been sort of messaging and talking and chatting away, and lots of emails coming through. I think the biggest concern is, of course, cash flow and survival. I think we all forget about profit. Doesn't really matter if there's a profit left there. The biggest thing is the cash flow. There's not many businesses that can survive. We all need the cash flow. As long as everything's fluid, moving, we all survive, don't we? It's when things stop, is when you see the true picture of any business. This is, the support we're getting from the government, I think, is absolutely incredible. They're going so far out to help everybody, but in reality, everything stopped, isn't it? The direct debits still keep going out, but I do have to say, we've got a lot of suppliers who've been forthcoming and helping out. So I think at the moment, the biggest concern with every dealer that I'm talking to is, what do they do? Do they just sit there? You can't liquidate the stock. Where does it go? We can't move. Officially we're supposed to be in lockdown. We don't go towards the premises to move anything. And it's just a matter of watching these cars sitting there. And it doesn't matter if you've got the best stock in the world. We can't deliver it. And, we can all take orders to a certain point. There's, first on my own website, I've got the click engage solution, which people can reserve a car. And I've actually sold a car a couple of days ago. A gentleman who rang up, and if I'm being honest, I wasn't getting too excited in the conversation initially, because it's the unknown of when is he going to have the car. And as we go into the conversation, and he genuinely wanted to buy the car, and he said, "Look," I said, "I do understand the situation we're in. I want to reserve it, and we'll talk about it as and when." I said, "That's fine. So he's actually reserved the car." But I think it's so it doesn't matter what leads we get at the moment. We can't deliver. It is going to be the survival, and sadly, there's going to be a lot of casualties out there, aren't they? And the other thing which I would say, I suppose, fortunately, in one way, January and February, there wasn't a lot of stock about. So I think there's a lot of dealers who were actually fighting for stock, which in some sense is a bit of a godsend, isn't it, really? The fact that they weren't fully stocked as there would have been, a start of March. So there's dealers there who've had a bit of a leeway to say, wow, yes, I was panicking to buy stock, but it's actually turned out a great blessing, the fact that they're a little bit lower maybe than they normally would be, which would be additional pressure. I think, again, talking to dealers, I think it's a matter of just looking at the direct debits, what the outgoings are. There's dealers there, and I've sort of suggested, they speak to the suppliers to see how flexible they are. And I'll tell you what, again, there's so many suppliers who've sort of said, they'll actually, either delay the payments or cut the invoices in half, or, the classified have said they're going to give April a bit of a break, so there's no marketing there. But again, I think talk to the suppliers, and I think most are sensible. But after saying that, I was talking to Jerry from Click Dealer the other day. The opposite to that, he's looking after the dealers and the suppliers. However, from his perspective, he was saying his suppliers, he's got 37 plus, pretty much all of them are saying, "Sorry, Jerry, you're on your own." So, you think, hold on a minute, he's in a middle situation. He's trying to help the dealers, but he's not getting the support from his suppliers.
Yeah.
Very strange, very, very tight situation, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is challenging. I mean, in terms of, you mentioned before about your 84-year-old customer, and as a network, there's going to be orders outstanding, and I've heard stories of some of the groups, delivering 150 cars over a 48-hour window and things like this, and how, and I'm presuming, there's a bit of sort of pragmatic view being taken on this at the minute from both the dealers and the customers, and fulfilling those orders. I mean, how have you faced that? Have you got any outstanding orders, or is it, did you manage to get everything delivered and fulfill all your outstanding orders? And have you heard any reports from the dealer network on any impact from that?
Personally, I mean, I managed to get all my cars out before the lockdown situation, and I think again the ability of the dealers, most of them, to be fair, have the cars ready to go on the same day, which means literally, I think, with a matter of day or two, a lot of dealers did manage to get the stock out in time. However, there's also quite a few dealers reporting cancellations. I think as soon as it was announced, there's also customers obviously going maybe into a bit of a panic mode and so forth. So there's also a lot of cancellations I was hearing about out there. It's just one of those, they don't need to change the car, so why are we changing it? We might as well cancel it because of what's going on there. I think, again, just before the lockup, we had an offer from Gardex who gave us the solution of sending videos out to customers, which was great. So we could do a personalised video to customers. So that was a great advantage for people to take that and sell cars that way. I think since the sort of lockdown, it's very, very mixed out there. I'm seeing various posts and different people I'm talking to, and there's a very, very heavy debate because there are some dealers still selling cars, delivering cars, which is against the rules as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
It depends how it's all right saying you're doing it remotely, you're doing it safely. Well, if one person can do it, so can everybody else. But it's not the spirit of what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep everybody at home to make sure this pandemic does not get any worse. We need to just do what we're told. And I do understand that, we all have pressures, financial pressures, all sorts of pressures coming through, that we all want to sell cars, we want to deliver cars. Well, it can't be done, can it?
Yeah, it does question that essential travel question, doesn't it? I suppose in a way, that's the bit that, there's reports of people using the loophole that they're dealing with rental cars, because obviously, rental is exempt from the lockdown, but that is around the mobility of essential drivers, not the movement of ex-rental stock between businesses. So it's created a bit of a concern, I think, that not everybody's abided by the new rules, I suppose, in terms of the lockdown.
I think the temptation is also, when you see posts, particularly on social media, I mean, at the moment we've all got so much time, in theory, and we're looking at social media, aren't we? So you're looking at dealer A down the road sort of saying, I'm going to do this off, I'm going to do this safely. And the temptation is there for the guy to say, you know what, I think I'll do that. And then it carries on throughout the country. So nothing stops, does it? And that's the thing, because one thing's, well, if you can get away with it, I'm going to do the same. I think people don't understand lockdown means lockdown, doesn't it? And things will get worse. Yeah.
Do you think pressure on social media will actually discourage some of those dealers from continuing?
I think it will, Curtis. I definitely do. I mean, I've heard of a newly formed company that delivers cars remotely. I'm not going to name them. I think we all know who they are. And I believe I've seen some very strong posts from other dealers who got involved in this. I actually saw the results after. Didn't actually realize this was going on social media. And they have postponed delivering cars because of the pressure from social media to say, you're in the motor trade, you are a car showroom, regardless of how you market yourself, you are a business of selling cars. This is wrong. Yeah. So they have actually, stopped delivering cars, which is only going to be a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think I know who you're talking about, because there was a lot of social media activity last week, followed by an announcement. So yeah, hopefully that's worked. You've mentioned how the government has responded to the pandemic, and one of the things they did introduce was the furlough packages for employees, which I think has been broadly welcomed. Across different sectors, it's been broadly welcomed. But of course, in the motor trade, a lot of salaries are based on commissions for sales staff. It's a major part of the salary package. What's been the feedback in the independent sector to this, and how will it pan out?
Absolutely. The furlough package has been very, very welcome. I mean, this goes across all the sectors, doesn't it? Really, and not just the automotive. And the trouble with the industry is it is so diverse and complex, isn't it? Think of the size and shapes of all the companies out there. The independents like myself, the sole traders. We fall outside the initiative, unfortunately. But also owner drivers. For example, Jim, he's a director of his limited company, but he can't sell Furlough because he needs to keep the business active as a director, doesn't he?
Yes.
As a company.
Yeah.
And also the fact that he pays himself a small basic wage and tops it up with dividends, like most company directors do. So he'll be, it's a very, very strange situation, of what to do in that sort of basis, really. And I suppose short term, if the people who've got issues there, taking a small wage out, they're not going to, they'll only get 80% furlonged on that if they're going to be furlonged. But if the directors want to take a short-term loan out, I suppose, to get by, as long as they're in profit, and then pay back through dividends. And if you think about it again, if you're a director and you're taking a small wage, I mean, it's going to be very small, isn't it? And I think that's why there's all this big hoo-ha about the furlong. That's as the association, we've actually started a campaign to try and get this changed by the government. We started the campaign Saturday afternoon, and I'm just looking on that at the moment, and we've got just short of 8,000 signatures to change the fact that salesmen are paid a basic wage, topped up by commission as well. So the commission is not taken into place. So a lot of these maybe young salesmen can't survive, can they? On such a small wage.
No, and this really is a big issue, isn't it? Because of the commission element of their salary.
Absolutely, commissions is, and I say it's not just the motor industry. People think it's all directors for the motor industry, but it's far wider industry, isn't it? There's so many jobs out there which are commission based, and all these people are just being, I suppose, penalised in a certain extent, because it's only they're not taking the overall package of what they're earning during the year. It's only based purely on the basic wages.
And I mean, that's there's been a few things that have impacted specifically on the automotive sector, and we mentioned it on the Saturday podcast around the MOT. The extension to the MOT to remove the worry for 6 months by delaying those vehicles that were due an MOT. But obviously it started with a deadline of the 29th of March. So obviously it created this flurry of work required where people are trying to get their MOTs done before the 29th. And then it creates this question of, does it add additional commercial challenges to the industry on top of what's already happening? Because obviously there's they've removed the necessity to have an MOT done now for 6 months for those vehicles that were due an MOT, and as Curtis said on on last week's podcast, that it's been a big year for MOTs this year, on the back of sort of 3 years of the new car market we saw 3 years ago, and we're now approaching the September one as well. I mean, what are your thoughts around that? Do you think it's the right thing to do? Is it a case that it's removed something that people need to think about, or do you think it could have been done slightly differently?
I think it was absolutely welcomed when they announced it, but I personally think it should have been done differently. Why have the date of the 29th onwards, or 30th, whatever it was they said? I think it's the 24th when they announced it. I think they should have just said everything from today. Then that would have not caused sort of mass hysteria for the people who were genuinely running out, within 3 or 4 days of that car, MOT on that door. So I think they should have said, as of today, do not panic. And I also think 6 months is way too long. I think it should have been probably 3 months maximum,
and then reviewed it again or something.
And then reviewed again. And I think the problem is, having an MOT station, I see a lot of horror stories. And some of these are basic horror stories of ball tyres. We don't expect all the customers to understand, the broken road springs and ball joints and so forth, which is fine. But to miss the basic ball tyres on cars, and this is just opening up a can of worms. I think is going to be more dangerous cars on the road because of the 6 month, because they will take full advantage, won't they? Customers will sit there and say, do you know what? I've got extra 6 months now. I don't need to worry about it whatsoever. Rather than saying, bring it in earlier. So I think the challenge is going to be now trying to get those vehicles back in before the 6 month, depending on when we go back, of course. But I just think it should have been, 3 months. Let's review it, but trying to bring it in the earliest opportunity once we all get back to some sort of normality, rather than saying it's carte blanche 6 month extension on it.
Yeah, and a follow-on question on that, Umesh. Garages, as we know, are exempt businesses from the shutdown. Obviously, it's up to the owners whether or not they want to stay open or shut, but they are exempt. So will the MOT exemption, we've just said it's lasting 6 months now, will it make it easier or more difficult for independent garages to stay open because they know that they won't be doing any MOT work? So what's your view on that?
I think it's going to be very, very difficult, to be honest with you, to stay open as an independent. If they just do MOTs, this is just going to be very, very difficult, because customers won't deem it to be essential, will they? It's a bit like servicing. As long as the car carries on driving, they carry on going. And the fact that they know they've got that extra 6 months to not go anywhere near an MOT station. So I think, it's going to be very, very challenging for just garages that do MOTs purely. But as you said, this March would have been the biggest MOT on there anyway. Yeah. So I think it's going to be, again, very, very critical for many MOT stations of what they're trying to do to get business back in again. I think we need to just probably change the message of don't leave in 6 months. If your MOT is due in April or May, as soon as we're back in again, bring it in sooner, rather than just carry on driving for the 6 months. But then the public might not think the same as what business owners do we?
No, and it's difficult. I mean, obviously it moves us on to sort of the final question, really. And we know that the car industry has been very resilient over the years, hasn't it? I mean, it's faced some serious challenges. I mean, this is a new challenge that it's not just the car retailers, the automotive sector. I mean, this is an area that there is no sort of guidelines to. Nobody really knows how long this will last. This is going to be one of the biggest challenges that potentially we have seen, in this total lockdown, and hopefully we'll come out of it quicker than some people are predicting. But in terms of the business, and crystal ball for this one, Umesh, but what's your view on how businesses will look once we come out of this? I mean, obviously some of this will depend on how long we're in lockdown for, because obviously the longer we're in lockdown, the more lost commercial revenue we're facing. But how do you think will we get out of this at the other side? How do you think the independent dealers market will look when we come through this?
Yeah, I think it's as you say. It's sadly there's going to be many, many casualties out there, aren't they, these days? Those with a cash reserve and well-run businesses will fight and survive. And I feel those with heavy borrowings, large stocking loans, that have worked on tight margins and sort of high turnover, could sadly be victims of all this, couldn't they? Because they've relied so much just purely on, I suppose, churning the metal, to put it a better way. But as we know, motor dealers are a resilient bunch. We're trying to come out of it. We all see the better side of it. I think as long as the dealers, keep adopting, using technology, website purchases, click and reserve, click and buy, looking at possibly different ways, delivering cars more probably. So maybe that's the way forward. I think a lot of dealers are switched onto this. But I think we've just got to keep using technology to try and survive. And I think I think over the years, different business worked in different models. Some have worked purely on just sell. They've not built the brand. They've not had a following of customers. And I truly believe those businesses which have had a genuine interest in looking after their customers are the ones who will survive and prosper, because the customers will want to support them. They've been loyal to them. They've been looked after, so they're going to come back and look after them, aren't they? But I think sadly there's going to be many casualties, because regardless of size of business, nobody has the cash sitting there to keep riding month after month after month with no income.
Yeah, Umesh, many thanks for joining us today and sharing your perspective and the perspective of the independent sector as to what's going on at the moment. Naturally, we wish you and the IMDA members well during the crisis, and do come back on at any stage to update us with what's going on. So many thanks for joining us, Umesh.
Can I just before I go, I'll just say a couple of little words if you don't mind before we finish on that. Obviously, massive thank you to all the key workers out there. We really appreciate what they're doing. Incredible out there. This morning I've gone and bought some seat covers to give to the local primary care, because they emailed me to say, have I got any spare seat covers? So I've delivered 10 boxes there because it was asked for. So we need to look after them. And the great support which everybody came out the other night clapping on that, this is what it's all about, thanking them. But I think they would be saying, instead of everybody coming out there and saying, clapping their hands and saying thank you for what we've done, they'd be thinking, do you know what, guys, just listen to the advice, which is stay at home and stay safe. So I think we all need to follow that advice. To all the independent dealers out there, franchise or non-franchise or whatever, all the dealers, to be honest with you, I'll open that. So the IMDA are here to help and support. We don't have all the answers, we don't have all the solutions, but we're always open. We'll have a conversation. We'll talk to anybody that we can help in any single way. If we can help save a dealer in any way, please talk to us. And the one final thing which I would say is, we're all locked up in offices and rooms and garden for a little while, whatever it may be. The great charity Ben is there to help everybody. This is a time where I think it doesn't matter how strong we all are. If we need a voice, something's troubling us, we need to speak to somebody which is not connected, family or friends or whatever, and they want to talk to the guys at Ben. They're there to help everybody in the industry. So that's all, guys. So thank you very much for inviting me on, and pleasure to be on again, and hopefully we'll see you again on that.
No, thank you, Umesh, and wise words you say. This is a time for everybody to come together into it. I think that's been truly demonstrated. It's about sharing information, sharing knowledge, supporting each other, and as you say, keep talking, and we will get through this together, I think, is the key message. So no, I appreciate you coming back on, Umesh. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. So you've been listening to this special Motor Trade Radio podcast brought to you in association with eBay Motors Group. So please like and share on social media, because it's important at these times to make sure that the dealer community all come together and share their experiences and keep talking, as Umesh has just said there. So that's all from Curtis and I, but we'll be back on the industry headlines on Saturday as normal, and keep an eye out for these special podcasts as we work throughout this crisis. And again, a massive thank you for tuning in and the continued support with this, and keep downloading, keep tuning in.